A game with a friend to date the loser's wife. It was a Tuesday evening. I was working late and didn't get home until 7:30. When I walked in the door, my wife Lori told me that Ben had called 3 times. She said, "He said he needed to talk to you tonight." I asked, "Did he say what he needed to talk to me about?" Lori replied, "No." I asked if he wanted to leave a message, and he said he would call you back later. I said, "It must be important if he called 3 times. I better call him before dinner." I went to the study to call Ben. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about Ben. He is my oldest and closest friend, and has been since we were each 12 years old. We met when we played Little League Baseball and have remained friends ever since. He was my best man when I got married 6 years ago, and I was his best man a year later. Ben and his wife Sandy are frequent guests at our house, and we are frequent guests at theirs. The 4 of us go on vacation together at least once a year and attend many social events. Ben and I play golf once a month, and while we'd like to play more often, our schedules don't allow it. I dialed the number. Ben answered on the first ring and said, "Jack, it's you." I replied, "What? Have you been sitting by the phone waiting for it to ring?" "No, I was just about to pick up the phone to call you." "It must be something very important since you're so anxious to get through to me. I hope nothing terrible has happened. Is Sandy okay?" "It's not urgent. I just need to talk to you about something." "Okay. What are you thinking about?" "I can't talk about it over the phone, Jack. Do you want to come here or should I come to your place?" "I'd rather meet at O'Shea's Tavern. We can tip a few and talk without interference." I said, "Okay, Ben. I'll meet you there in an hour. Can you explain to me what this is about?" Ben replied, "I'll tell you at the O'Shea." He then thanked me and we hung up. When I got back to the kitchen, Lori asked me what the emergency was. I told her that he asked me to meet him at O'Shea's and then he would tell me everything. Then Lori said, "He must have told you something, given you some idea." "He didn't tell me anything on the phone. He said he would tell me later." "Then you must tell me the whole story as soon as you get home." "I may not be able to tell you anything. After all, he wants to meet me away from home so we can have privacy. And the privacy can only be with you and Sandy. Whatever he wants to tell me, he might want to keep it private. If that's what he wants, I can't tell you anything." Lori looked at me and said, "Do you know who you're talking to? You know you can't keep secrets from me." I replied, "Well, maybe I'll have to try." Lori just laughed at me. Later Tuesday night, now I'll just say that I met Ben at O'Shea's, and now I'll move on to my return home. When I walked in the door, Lori was already waiting for me. She kissed me and said, "Okay, so what's Ben's secret?" I replied, "It's not really a secret. He just wanted to discuss an idea he had." "And what was that idea?" I said, "Ben wants to change the stakes in our golf match this Saturday." "And how much are you playing for now?" "We're playing at $5 a hole." "And you always win, don't you?" "Yes, I always win. Every time we play, I take about $15 or $20 from him. In fact, I could win more, but I don't bother with him. I like to win, but I don't want to embarrass him." "Well, if you always win, why would he raise the stakes? It doesn't make sense." "Ben says he took lessons, took 5 punches, and now he thinks he can beat me. I didn't tell him that he actually needs to take 7 strokes to have a chance." Before Lori could make another comment or ask a question, I wrapped my arms around her, cradled her beautiful rounded cheeks, and kissed her deeply. When we pulled away from the kiss, Lori asked, "Are you going to finish telling me about Ben, or do you plan to change the subject by making love to me?" I replied, "I plan to do both." I led Lori into our bedroom and began kissing all over her face and neck while unbuttoning the buttons on her blouse. As our passion grew, we stripped off our clothes faster and faster, and when we were completely unclothed, I carried Lori to the bed, laid her down, and lay on the bed next to her. I made love to her very slowly. Then Lori brought her lips to my ear and asked, "So what bets does Ben want to play on Saturday?" I replied that Ben's bet was that the winner would get a date with the loser's wife. Lori quickly stood up and asked, "What do you mean a date with the loser's wife?" I replied, "Same as it sounds. The loser's wife goes on a date with the winner of the match." "What kind of date are you talking about?" "Well, I don't know exactly, except that it will involve sex." "Is he crazy? Does he really think Sandy and I would agree to such a stupid thing?" "I don't know about Sandy, but Ben is hoping I can get you to agree to it." "You told him no, of course." "I told him we'd talk it over and I'll contact him on Thursday." "Well, now I can give you an answer." I stopped Lori before she could finish her answer. I said, "Before you say anything, please hear me out." Lori looked at me and was silent, so I continued. "You know that Ben and I have been friends for 20 years. He has not only been my friend, but the best friend anyone could ever dream of having. He's always been there for me, and since we've been married, he's always been there for us. What you don't know, but I don't understand how you could have missed it, is that Ben has really liked you since the first time we met. I'm not saying he's in love with you. He loves Sandy, but I've always felt that he has fantasies about having sex with you. He's never acted like that around me. I didn't know he felt that way. You know Ben isn't the kind of gentleman to hit on you. He would never do that to our friendship or make you feel uncomfortable. So what are you saying? You think I should want to be the prize in this golf match? Are you saying you wouldn't mind if Ben had sex with me? I'm saying that if you flatly refuse to participate in this match, we could hurt Ben by making him feel that the object of his affection for the past 6 or 7 years has completely rejected him, and thus ruin our friendship. I just want you to think this through. There may be a way out of this without offending Ben. Besides, Ben can't beat me at golf, remember? Just tell me you'll think about it and we'll discuss it again tomorrow night. Okay?" Lori replied, "Okay. I'll think about how we can get out of this without hurting Ben's feelings, even if I think it's a stupid idea." On Wednesday, when I got home from work, neither Lori nor I mentioned the bet, but you could feel the topic hanging in the air. After dinner, Lori put the dishes away, turned on the dishwasher, and said she was going to take a bath. It occurred to me that she was trying not to let me know about her decision, not saying anything and hoping it would just go away. I knew it must be weighing heavy on her mind because all day it had been weighing heavy on mine. At work, I fantasized about having sex with Sandy, but I kept feeling guilty about how Lori would feel if I made love to Sandy. Then I tried to imagine how I would feel if Ben slept with Lori. I tossed back and forth with these thoughts all day. I sat in the living room until I heard the water in the bathtub stop running. Suddenly, a solution hit me. I went upstairs, undressed, and joined Lori in the tub. Climbing in after her, I wrapped my arms around her and kissed her neck. I didn't bring up the bet. I washed Lori's back, and we fiddled in the tub until we were both horny, then wiped each other dry and headed for the bedroom. That's when I decided to bring it up again. I was a little nervous because I thought it might ruin the mood, but I went ahead anyway. I asked, "Have you thought about Ben's bet today?" Lori didn't react in the way I feared, but not very positively either. She replied, "Yes, I've been thinking about it all day." Then she continued, "The whole thing might turn out to be a moot point because Sandy probably won't agree." I said, "You're probably right, but Ben told me that he thinks Sandy will say yes." Lori said, "I don't want that, but I think if I had to, I could go through with it, which is to have sex with Ben. But what I don't think I could go through with is having sex with Sandy. And since Ben can't beat you at golf, I'm going to have to allow it." I said, "You don't have to worry about that. I'm not going to have sex with Sandy." "Oh, so you've decided to say no to Ben?" I decided I wasn't going to win. Lori just looked at me and was silent for a full minute, then started to open her mouth, but I stopped her. I said, "Please listen to me for a minute." I spoke again. Sex with you has been a fantasy of Ben's for several years now. He always thought it was a fantasy he could never fulfill until now. Now he thinks he has a chance to beat me at golf, and he's become obsessed with winning his chance to have sex with you. None of this makes any sense to us, but it makes perfect sense to Ben. I know you think Ben is handsome and you're not repulsed by him, but you just never thought of him as a love partner. I just thought we could do something nice for him, and I think you'd really like it. Lori didn't comment on anything. I could see that she was considering my words, but she was also very horny and had a hard time concentrating on anything other than what I was doing to her. I said, "Lori, close your eyes and imagine that I am Ben, and we are getting ready to have sex." Then we had sex, and Laura called me Ben, and afterward, we just lay in each other's arms for a while without talking. When I'd calmed down enough, I looked at Lori and said, "Pretty wild, huh?" She only replied, "Wow." After a few more minutes, I asked, "So, what do you think? Are you ready to do it or not?" Lori replied, "No matter what happens, will you still love it when it's over?" I replied, "Absolutely." Then Lori said, "Okay, let's do it." After that, we discussed how the date should be conducted. Thursday afternoon, I called Ben and asked if Sandy was willing to make the bet. Ben replied, "Yes, Sandy is willing." "Does that mean you talked Lori into it?" I replied, "That's exactly what it means." "Great!" You could hear the excitement in Ben's voice. "Ben, before we go any further, we need to meet to go over all the terms of the bet and outline exactly what this date will be like." Ben said, "Great, meet me at O'Shea's tonight." I said, "No, that requires the girls' involvement. They are involved now. You and Sandy come over to our house tonight around 8 and we'll talk it over, okay?" Ben said, "Okay, I'll see you tonight at 8. 8 p.m., Thursday. 10 minutes after 8, the four of us, Lori, Sandy, Ben, and I, were sitting in my living room with drinks in hand and making small talk. Everyone seemed to be waiting for me to start the conversation. I cleared my throat and began, "I thought we should get together to discuss this golf bet and make sure we're all in agreement." I took a big sip of my beer and looked at the other three. It was obvious that each of them had decided to let me do the talking. "I think the first thing to do is lay out the nature of the bet as I understand it. On Saturday morning, Ben and I are going to play golf in a match play format. That means whoever wins the most holes wins the match play. Ben, are you okay with that?" Ben nodded affirmatively. "The bet on this match will be that the winner of the match will get a date on Saturday night with the wife of the loser of the match. Is that correct, Ben?" Ben again answered in the affirmative. "Good. Now we have to determine exactly what that date should be." At this remark, Ben and Sandy only looked at me strangely. "I mean, it's not going to be some domestic thing. I've thought it over, and here's what I've come up with. The date will start Saturday night at 6:30 p.m. when the winning golfer picks up his date from her house. The purpose of this early start is for the couple to have time to get to Michelle's restaurant, booked for 7 p.m. I suggest ordering from the pre-theater menu because after dinner, the couple will head to see The Phantom of the Opera, which starts at 8 p.m. After the performance, the couple will head to the Marriott Hotel Lounge for drinks and dancing. Then, when they decide to do so, they can retire to their room at the Marriott and do what they came for. The date will officially end at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning." Ben finally spoke. "Dinner, the theater, and the hotel? You've really planned it all out carefully." "I wanted the wife who goes on this date to feel like a winner. If her husband was a loser, that doesn't mean she has to be. The way I see it, the man on the date will pay for dinner, and the woman will pay for the hotel room. I got free theater tickets from one of our sales reps at work." I paused, sipped another beer, looked at Sandy and said, "Everyone agree with this bet and the date as I outlined it? Sandy, how about you?" Sandy remained silent but nodded affirmatively. "Lori?" Lori answered in the affirmative. "Ben?" Ben answered yes. So we're all in agreement for now. Does anyone have anything to add or any questions? Ben, Sandy, and Lori were silent. Then I said that there was one more issue that we had to come to an agreement on. I don't like to bring it up, but I think it's something we should all be in agreement on. All three of them just looked at me and waited. Contraceptives, yes or no? No one spoke for a couple minutes, then Lori said, I'd rather not use EET. Ben and Sandy quickly agreed. Okay, no contraceptives. I think that's it. Ben, I'll see you Saturday morning. Ben and I then shook hands. I kissed Sandy and Ben kissed Lori, and they left. As Lori and I were getting into bed Friday night, she asked me if I was sure I wanted to go through with the bet, and if I planned to lose. I replied, winning this bet will be a high point in Ben's life, and I can give him that. And I believe that even though you are nervous about it, you will enjoy the adventure. As for me, the thought of you in bed with another man has turned me on all week. So yes, I'll take the bet. Saturday afternoon. When I got home from the golf course on Saturday around noon, Lori was waiting for me in the living room. As soon as I walked in, she asked, Well, what happened? I replied, Can you believe it? I lost. Lori mockingly replied, Oh, honey, that's too bad. Then continued, I guess I'll have to go and have sex with Ben tonight. Yeah, I guess you will. Did he beat you? Ben played pretty well tonight. I asked if he beat you. Well, I lost, didn't I? But did he beat you? Of course he didn't. He can't beat me at golf, but don't ever tell him that. Lori asked, What are we going to do until Ben picks me up? I thought we'd go to the mall and buy you some underwear for tonight. You really want to do that? I replied. Yes. Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Lori and I got back from the mall at 4:30, and she said she had to start getting ready for our date. She laughed when she said that. I said I would help her get ready. She asked how I was going to help, and I said I would do everything for her, except makeup, and she would have to tell me what she needed to do. Lori asked why I wanted to help her get ready for her date with Ben. I replied, I can't be with you tonight, but I want to be a part of the event. That's all I can do. I think I'll enjoy it. Okay, Jack, turn on the shower and get me ready. I turned on the shower and began to slowly undress Lori, trying to imagine how Ben would feel when he first saw Lori without her clothes on. Once she was undressed, Lori sat on the edge of the tub, and I put shaving cream on her legs and shaved them, being careful not to cut myself. Then Lori stepped into the shower and I followed her. While she stood under the shower, enjoying the hot water cascading over her body, I soaped up the washcloth with soap. When it was ready, I began to wash Lori's back. I moved from her neck downward. I watched the water and loofah wash over her back. Then I finished with washing her hair. When I was done washing and conditioning her hair, we got out of the shower and I wiped her body, and then sat down and watched Lori dry her hair and apply her makeup. When it was done, we went into the bedroom where Lori laid out everything she was going to wear. Before she got dressed, I made her lie down on the bed and gave her a light massage to relax her while I made sure I touched, pushed, squeezed, or otherwise stimulated every part of her body. I wanted her to start the date relaxed. Finally, I helped Lori into her dress. It was an ankle-length, sleeveless black dress with a slit that reached almost halfway down her thigh. Lori completed the outfit with a pair of black shoes with 3-inch heels and a single string of pearls. I stepped back and looked at her. Lori is almost 6 feet tall and has a very graceful appearance. The combination of her shoulder-length brunette hair and blue eyes give her an undeniable beauty. I said, Lori, you look elegant, sophisticated, and very sexy. She looked at herself in the mirror, laughed, and replied, I agree. 6:30, Saturday night. Ben arrived to pick up Lori at exactly the appointed time. I was out in the kitchen when I heard his car pull into the driveway. When the bell rang, Lori opened the door. I could hear their conversation. They sounded a little stilted and nervous. Ben asked if Lori was ready to go, and she said she had one more thing to do, and then she would be ready. She walked into the kitchen and kissed me gently on the lips and said, "See you in the morning," and then turned and left. As she walked back to the door, I heard her say to Ben, "Ready?" And then the door closed. I went to the window, watched them leave, and wondered if I had just done something stupid. The night passed very slowly. Around 9 o'clock, I decided to call Sandy and see how she was doing. She answered me that she was doing fine and then asked, "Can I ask you a question?" I replied, "Sure, what is it?" Then Sandy asked, "Did you let Ben win or did he really beat you?" I replied that I lost, and she said, "That's not what I asked. I asked if you let him win. Did you lose on purpose?" I said, "On purpose? He's with my wife. He's going to have sex with my wife tonight. Do you really think I'm going to lose on purpose?" "Well, it's just that Ben has never been able to beat you at golf before. I just thought that since he's a good friend of yours, you decided to let him have a fantasy night with Lori." I said, "Oh, you know about his obsession with Lori." "How could I not know?" I said, "Okay, then why did you agree to the bet?" "Because I love Ben, and I want his fantasies to come true. And besides, I was hoping you would win." Then I said, "There is one upside to losing. I can demand a rematch, and I can guarantee that I won't lose next time. And I'll find something even better for our date than the Phantom of the Opera and the Marriott." Sandy said, "I'll be looking forward to it." "Me too. Good night." With those words, I hung up the phone. Until about 2 o'clock in the morning, I sat and watched movies. Then I went to bed and fell asleep pretty quickly considering the circumstances. I woke up at 7 o'clock Sunday morning and had breakfast and coffee, then took a shower. After that, I read the paper until about 9:30 when I heard a car pull into the driveway. I quickly ran upstairs to the bedroom that overlooked the driveway and watched through the window as Ben pulled up. I watched them both sit in the car and talk for a few minutes. Ben put his arm around Lori, pulled her to him and kissed her, then another and another. Watching this, I started to panic. Then they both got out of the car. Ben grabbed Lori's overnight bag from the back seat, and they walked to the front door. I went downstairs to meet Lori when she came into the house. Ben didn't go in with her. He just got back in the car and headed home. I walked up to Lori, intending to thank her for accepting my date, but before I could say anything, she put her arms around my neck and kissed me hard, and then said, "Thank you for letting me have such a wonderful time last night." I pulled away and looked at her and realized that she really did have a wonderful time. I said, "Now you have to tell me about your date. I want to know every detail. I want to live this date through you." Lori said, "Then let's go upstairs. I want you to make love to me while I tell you about last night, but I need to shower first." I said, "I'll make love to you while you tell me about it, but I'll shower later. I want to smell and taste you like I do now." When we got to our bedroom, I turned Lori toward me and kissed her, and then, pulling off her blouse, I asked, "How was dinner?" She replied, "Dinner was excellent. We had meals that were planned for people going to the theater, so we were served quickly and the food was very good. Plus, we had a bottle of wine, so we felt very relaxed as we headed to the theater." Ben parked in the lot, and before we got out of the car, he said, "To avoid any awkward moments later, why don't we finish our first kiss now?" He then kissed me very gently on the lips. He barely touched me, but I was so turned on as I walked out of the house that his kiss ignited me. I felt hot in my body. Then he kissed me again, this time with more passion. Then he kissed me a third time, and I almost said, "Away with the play. Let's go to the hotel." I pulled down her skirt, asking her about the play. She said the play was great. She said they had great seats and that they really enjoyed it. I said, "Go on with what you did after the play." Lori replied, "We played. When we came out of the play and got in the car, we saw it was going to take a while to get out of the parking lot. So Ben just took me in his arms and started kissing me. I felt like a teenager kissing in the car. I told him to wait until we got to our room before we got that far. I started playing with Lori's breasts and asked her to continue. She said, "We played in the car for a few more minutes and then went to the hotel. We went into the lounge and ordered drinks and went dancing. Ben is a great dancer. As we danced to the slow songs, he kept squeezing my body. Up to this point, Ben had never said a word about sex. He only used his hands but didn't say anything. But as we danced to a slow song, he whispered in my ear, 'I want to go up to the room now to have sex with you.' As I played with Lori's breasts, she continued her story. We hurried up to the room, and once inside, Ben pulled me to him and started kissing me. We began to make tender love for 10 minutes. We took one wine break. When we finished our wine, Ben sat on the edge of the bed and began to make love to me again. I never thought I would enjoy it, but it felt great. He then worked on my legs. After he worked both of my feet, he started kissing my feet. Next, we made love again, and after a while, I realized from his breathing that Ben had fallen asleep. I woke up at 4 a.m. with my head on Ben's stomach. I crawled over to him and put my head on his pillow and went back to sleep. I asked if that was it, and Lori said, "We woke up at 8 o'clock, and by the time we showered, dressed, and had breakfast, it was time to head home. So what do you think of how that turned out?" I said, "It looks like you guys had a great time and had great sex. I'm very happy. Ben got what he always dreamed of. You enjoyed doing something you never expected, and I enjoyed being the man who gave last night to two of my favorite people in the world." In between kissing Lori's body, I said, "Overall, how would you rate the sex you had last night?" Lori thought for a moment and then replied, "Last night was the best night of sex I've ever had in my life. And it wasn't just the time I spent with Ben. It started with you taking me shopping for lingerie. We just stared at each other for a minute, and then we started laughing." As I cleaned myself up, I said to Lori, "By the way, I'm going to demand that Ben take a rematch from me, and I'm not going to let him win next time." Lori replied, "That's fine, but maybe you'll let him win next time." The end! Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.